Hi Gina.
Hi Ione, hi everyone. I'm Gina, the senior editor of Polyester.
And I'm Ione, the founding editor-in-chief of Polyester, and this is the Polyester Podcast, a feminist pop culture podcast dissecting the discourse on a weekly basis.
Before we start, if you're a fan of this podcast, please make sure to like, rate, subscribe and review. And if you really love us, you can sign up for a podcast membership where you can join our WhatsApp chat, get access to our research each week, and get on our Instagram close friends for only £3 a month. We also now have a Substack called Non-Threatening Boys, *, where we will be sharing exclusive podcast episodes once a month on the Boy of the Hour. Do we have any reviews, Ione?
We do. 5 stars, fave podcast. I look forward to listening to Ione and Gina every Monday. They consistently cover the latest social topics, pop culture, and even more serious current issues, particularly feminist ones. Every episode is well researched and provides insightful perspectives. I love that they fully discuss the topics and aren't afraid to disagree with each other. Their dialogue is both insightful and funny, making it very accessible. It's like listening to your mates have a chat. By Danielle Campbell in the UK, but she's your mate, so that's why it just made me laugh.
Danielle?
Yeah.
We are your mate. You don't have to say that.
It is like listening to your mates having a chat, that's true.
I don't know, I think like sometimes I chat like blah, blah.
Okay. Try not to do that today, I guess.
And not smartly like we do on this podcast.
So,
what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about how the fans are not okay. This is not informed by that review.
The fans, the stans, the anti-fans, we're getting into all of them.
Fandom.
Fandingo.
Fandom is in crisis, and there are 3 things that have made us think this. And I don't know where to start. I don't really want to start a Chappell because I feel like we talk about her so much.
Chappell's the chunkiest bit of the meaty gossip, so should we start with the last dinner party?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
So, the last dinner party, long-time listeners of the pod will remember that we did an episode on the last dinner party, well, me and Eden did, about how everyone was calling them industry plants because they kind of just like came up really quickly, got signed really quickly and wore nice clothes, I guess. Since then, we've also featured them on Polyester, got their side of the story.
Yeah, Charlotte, our platform editor, interviewed them, specifically asked them, are you industry plants? And they went, no.
And we went, okay.
They were like, we've actually been working on it for ages behind the scenes. It's just not the stuff that people see. Like, it was born out of us all, like, being musical and chatting in a smoking area. The same, like, they just took it out of that, like, idea space into being a band, and it just got picked up on.
Anyway, if you want to listen to that episode or read that article,
or listen to the band.
No. No, just listen to us all the time. So Gina sent me this and was like, oh my god, have you seen this? Because I went to go see Trap, the M. Night Shyamalan. I saw Trap in the cinema. Gina watched it on streaming last week. And then literally it was like 2 days after she saw it, this popped up on Twitter, where it was this man basically being like, he was tweeting... I know it's not fun. Well, it is funny, actually.
Do you want me to read it out?
No, it's just funny because I went on his Twitter and obviously it had been a few hours or whatever, so I scrolled down and there's a tweet like, going to a gig tonight, smiley face, and then the next one was this. So he said that he went to their gig in Lincoln and he was funneled into a dark corner with other men, told I might be a perv because I'm alone, and then taken into a room alone with a security guard where I was interrogated and searched. Feels sick. In subsequent comments, he said he had asked what his favourite song by the British group was, and then another man wrote, I rocked up there tonight at 8:45 on my own, no queue. I got asked how long I'd like them for and to name my favourite song. I thought it was a bit strange, and the first time I've ever felt like I'm on Mastermind to get into a gig. Now I've read this, I understand why. And a third man said they were whisked away, searched, and asked condescending questions. The engine shed then said they were aware of reports online that the entry procedure that night fell far short of our venue entry policy, which requires all attendees to be treated equally and subject to the same entry requirements. It said that a preliminary investigation had shown that after security were told about incidents at previous gigs by the band, the venue management team made an ad hoc change to policy. And then the last dinner party, it obviously blew up on Twitter, which we'll get into in a second. And also the last dinner party cancelled the gig half an hour before it was due to start. So then we were like, trap. There's a serial killer in the engine shed in Lincoln.
Likely place for one to be.
And then they also cancelled the gig the next night. And then they put out this statement being like, that these policies do not reflect our beliefs and would not have been implemented had we been made aware of them in advance. Our shows are intended to be self-welcoming spaces for everyone, which is something we deeply care about. Seeing inclusivity embraced by our fan base is one of the best parts of performing live. They said that everyone is welcome and encouraged to attend their shows, and that they were appalled and disappointed that anyone was made to feel otherwise. I think do this at every gig. Question the men, especially the ones that are alone. They do it at Heaven.
Yeah, they do it at Warehouse Project, where they one of the guys was like, they looked in my wallet, even in the coin bit.
That
it's
always
like,
happens.
That's where you put the drugs.
Yeah.
Like, obviously they're gonna look in there.
Yeah, when I went to, 10 years ago, I went to a Miley Cyrus secret gig at Heaven. Lol. And my now husband didn't get in because he didn't look gay enough.
Yeah, there's these kind of like door policies are commonplace, and they often apply. We've had it before where we've thrown events and like the door staff have been like unwelcoming towards queer people.
Yeah.
It's just that now that it's happening to like straight men being like, look, your demographic.
No, I think it's two different things. Obviously, like people being phobic, homophobic, whatever phobic is bad in terms of a door policy. And I think that obviously it shouldn't be commonplace that straight looking men, because I think the original man that posted is queer, that straight looking men get, stop and search. It's not even stop and search, do you know what I mean? But it's just so embarrassing. Like, do you not know about, stop and search, like how racially biased that is, like how people of colour literally deal with stuff like this everywhere they go. And it's like, sorry, you've been asked like why you're at somewhere where it's a band that's like made up of women, A. B, like we've been to so many gigs where it's like a girl band, I don't mean like Spice Girls, I mean like the last dinner party. And there's fucking pervy men there, and you get felt up in the crowd, and literally the whole last 20 rows of the audience is Radio 6 music dads that are there by themselves. I'm not saying they can't enjoy music. I'm not saying they can't enjoy anything. But these type of men don't consider like their impact on spaces when they enter them. And it's always on people that are marginalised, like that spend their whole lives going, we're trying to create safe spaces at our gigs. We're trying to create safer spaces at our club night. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. And like, that's been reversed now. So it's like, oh, white, straight looking men feel uncomfortable because they've been asked a couple of questions. Like, grow up. I saw a Instagram story of, I think it was from the singer of Be Your Own Pet, but I might be making that up. And she was like, what? So how women have been treated at gigs their whole lives?
No, literally, like...
It's like a gig isn't a safe environment if you're marginalised. Sorry that you've been made to feel like 10% more uncomfortable. And the original poster was like, oh, I left. I feel absolutely shocked. I can't believe I was called a pervert. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, if that happened, maybe I would have been groped less as a teenager.
Yeah, literally, I think that demographic is typically the wrong ones at shows and gigs and stuff. So, like, it does make sense that they should be screened in that way. Do I think the security are probably just taking advantage of having power? Maybe, but that doesn't mean that you can go online so insensitively, like so blindly be like, wow, guys, can you imagine something like this happening in this day and age? Like, to me, like, yeah, it shouldn't be happening to anyone, but it's so insensitive to act like these things don't happen all the time.
Also, when we live in a world of like people literally like losing their lives at the hands of police, like, and all of this kind of stuff, it's like, this does happen. Like, why are you acting like people don't get mistreated in these situations? And yeah, there's like obviously a stark abuse of power, like between like security guards, police, like all of these types of people, like authority figures, and that's something that needs to be, addressed, discussed. But it's like,
it also just spurred this massive backlash to the band then, because people were like, these bitches, they're so up themselves. Why is this the things they're telling the security to do? These industry plants, how fucking dare they, like, just really like going in on these women, like really misogynistically, just because they can, because they've got this like hashtag excuse to go in on them.
Yeah, it's like you peel off the first layer of these people most of the time, and there's like their own, it's not even bias, like what's even the word, but as in their own hatred like comes out. It's like, oh well, we like watching women as long as we can do it on our terms and we're not questioned for anything. And it's like a huge part of the reason why I don't like live music anymore is because I don't want to be hassled. Like,
don't want to be in a
crowd. I literally got into a fight the last festival I went to with a celebrity, a man.
No, we went Robbie Williams.
We did go Robbie Williams.
The crowd for Robbie Williams was all
women,
mums and grand.
But I think why we're talking about it as well is because it happened this week, in which like a lot of stuff has kind of been rumbling under the surface of fandom and like live music and music in particular. It's interesting that it's happening to musicians as well and not actors or anything. Like, obviously, I'm sure actors have stalkers, we know this, etc., etc., etc. But as in, like, the heat of fandom is really on musicians at the moment rather than, like, Club Chalamet.
I guess because a lot of, for musicians, they get a lot of audience time.
And they have more direct fan,
Like
sorry, that is what you're
interactions.
saying.
Like, not even just with, like, oh, I'm playing a show and I'm in the audience. Like, the management will sell meet and greets. Like, I know for the Chappell dates that she was in the UK, you could pay like a VIP and go early and watch her soundtrack and ask her questions.
And I think they initially sold that as meet and greet, no, and then she changed it to be like the question thing after how big she's got and stuff.
Yeah, big fucking
which is fair enough, yeah. And I think it's just like, also with this last dinner party situation, you know that's not common practice. So if you're being asked those things, there's probably a reason for it. Like, obviously we joked like trap in real life, but we are like that in that Rolling Stone interview of Chappell Roan that we already spoke about, where in which she was saying she was like stalked and sexually harassed and by a fan, and like someone found her dad's phone number and stuff like that. Like, we obviously the last dinner party aren't that level of famous, but we also don't know what they have going on, and like if they have had scary fan encounters, if someone at their gig has like had a bad experience. Like, there's obviously a reason, because venues aren't just like putting this in blanket, or maybe there's not, and it's what you said, it's an abuse of power. But what you said when you first sent it to me is just like, people don't use their brains. Like, that person's gone into that situation thinking it's only about them.
Yeah, they don't put two and two together. Whereas, like, if you were truly a fan of someone, you'd be like, oh my god, why are men getting screened at the gig of this band that I like?
It is literally like trap though, which is funny.
Let me think of the reasons that this security system might have been put in place.
Yeah.
Solely to piss me off. That must be the logical conclusion. Hey, Rylan, get on this.
Oh yeah, you said Rylan got involved. What did Rylan say?
Ryan replied going like, oh my god.
Rylan Clark is a UK celebrity for all of the international listeners out here.
Please Google Rylan Clark. A non-threatening boy.
Word. Love it. So yeah, and then the next piece that we're going to look at is after the break.
And we're back in the room.
Hello.
I hope you enjoyed your advertisement.
So, before we go into like what's happened?
Can you believe what's happened?
Because we did spend a bit more time on that than I was expecting, I will say. Sehan put this really interesting piece of work in the research that I thought it was kind of interesting because of also how untrue it is now. So it's called Excerpts from Fandom as Method, as in it's excerpts from this paper called Fandom as Methodology by Elvia Wilk on LitHub. And I'll try not to read it in full, but maybe I will. It says, in 2009, Mark Fisher wrote an entry on his beloved blog K-Punk about fandom. There's a peculiar shame involved in admitting that one is a fan. He writes, maturity insists that we remember with hostile distaste, gentle embarrassment, or sympathetic condensation when we were first swept up by something, when in the first flushes of devotion we tried to copy the style, the tone, when, that is, we are drawn into the impossible quest of trying to become what the other is to us. While that kind of adolescent worship may seem anti-intellectual or amateur, Fisher argues that it's actually the only kind of love that has real philosophical implications, the passion capable of shaking us out of sensus communis, the common sense, that instructs us to remain dispassionate with regard to our subjects. I think that in itself is interesting because it's something that we always really advocate for under Polyester, is like unashamedly liking the things you like. But then Fisher is saying that the diametrical opposite of the fan is the troll. So trolls pride themselves on not being fans, he explains, because they see fandom as naive or pathetic. The grinchy troll maintains a posture of alleged detachment, this sneer from nowhere, always at the edge of projects it can neither commit to nor entirely sever itself from. The quintessential troll of the digital age is the disembodied anonymous shitposter whose mode is suspicious disdain. A troll might be as obsessed as a fan, but a troll's obsession is couched in derision. The hallmark of today's troll is plausible deniability. At any moment, the troll can prevaricate, I don't really care, I don't have to care, my body isn't on the line. Fandom, on the other hand, pins you in your body because it disallows you from pretending you are nowhere in relation to your subject. Fandom admits care, attachment, and dedication. But now we're obviously seeing a thing in which fans and trolls are one of the same. Yeah. And I think we've seen this, like obviously it's existed within fandom communities for quite a long time, probably like the last decade at length, in which we see people being mean to the ones they like, the ones they love.
The ones they love.
The ones they love. Like, as in, you know, we've spoken so much about even like the language of like stomp on my neck, like all of this type of thing. Like there's so much confusion in language and Gen Z and like love and hate and like all of these things. Why are you laughing at me?
Sorry, just the stomp on your neck made me laugh.
But I feel like reading this made me think that maybe why fans are so mean now is because they're embarrassed of earnestly liking something.
Yeah, I think that's true. I also think like when you were reading it out, it really like connected some boxes for me. Whereas like it used to be that we just like were allowed to openly, earnestly love things, and it was a passion for us, and you're allowed to be passionate about that. And I don't think that passion goes away from you, but it just gets redirected. Like as you get older, you get more cynical, stuff like that. So it makes sense that that passion hasn't gone away from loving stuff. It's just been redirected into hating stuff really, really like angrily.
And then another thing that made me kind of think about this was Hannah Ewan's piece for The Guardian. Social media has blurred the boundaries between fans and celebrities with disturbing results. Hannah, friend of the pod, friend of us.
Our friend.
Our friend, Hannah Ewan's. There's this quote in it that's like, I actually disagree with, although obviously I respect all of her opinions and thoughts. Celebrities and famous artists no longer stand in the role of an archetypal god in culture, and fans don't always worship them as they once did. They feel strongly about them, but it's different. Everyone and everything has become potential content, including favourite artists, their bodies, and their personal lives. No one is above this collective drive to document, engage, and create discourse, which that's true, but I think the part I disagree with is that artists no longer stand in for the role of archetypal gods in our culture. I think something that we've been seeing on Polyester socials is people, this year in particular, it's been boiling since like 2020, death to celeb culture. I think what we're actually seeing is just like a revolt. And I don't know if this is because I just watched Chaos on Netflix, which is about Greek mythology. And when they start revolting against when the people start revolting against the Greek gods, basically, and then there's the uprising. Well, it doesn't actually happen yet, but it's all gearing up to the like uprising. I don't know anything about Greek mythology, so all of my knowledge comes from this show. Because no, I haven't researched the Greek gods apart from watching Jeff Goldblum, who I hate, playing one. But it made me think, no, this is how we treat gods. Like we've always treated gods as a form of entertainment, as well as like a moral compass, as well as like a way to live our lives. And what we are really seeing, we are just in the end times of celebrities as gods. Like I don't know what's going to replace them. But now we're seeing that like we've gone through all the good stuff. We've gone through like the blind worship. We're going through the moralizing of them, like whether their choices are good, bad. And now we're in the times in which we're rejecting them. But the way in which we're rejecting them is being so pointed towards like young women in particular, and often young queer women, because easy targets, like tale as old as time.
Yeah, I think the thing with making someone a god is that you are painting them as infallible, and no person is infallible.
Yeah.
So it's just always was going to bite everyone in the arse, wasn't it? When that we found out so much about people, whereas before, like celebrities were so much easier to be gods because we didn't know enough about them to see their infallibility.
100%. This is what I was just going to say as well. It's like we have these untouchable. We've gone through the era of celebrities being like untouchable people that live in like the clouds, basically. The clouds being like the hills. And it's like, we don't know anything about Beyonce, like tying into what we were talking about last week. Whereas like with someone like Chappell Roan or Billie Eilish, who are the people that we're going to talk about, it's like Billie's grown up in the spotlight since she was like 15. Younger, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think 14, 13.
And Chappell Roan's been on the internet. And like we're now seeing the era of celebrities that have been on the internet. So we have all this like ammo. And these younger pop stars are also used to interacting on the internet, whereas like Gen X stars aren't, if that makes sense. Like we've all grown up in the same circumstances in like the same melting pot, and we're seeing the results of that, of like a two-way stream of consciousness between celebrities and fans rather than just like the projection onto them.
Yeah, and the projection isn't just like projected onto these people, but feeling an ownership over them. Like we saw it loads, and we've seen it in the past where like fans are like, I've made you a fan, like I'm a stan account, and that's like why I think I've got input on your marketing, like we said last week. And that's kind of like what people are doing now to their creative output as well. Like it's not just the marketing. So to bring us on to our next topic, Billie Eilish.
Tell us about Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish just released a video for Birds of a Feather, which is weird because that song's been out for ages. So I was wondering why that's only just happened.
I think people have just started doing that now, haven't they? Like, because people kept asking Chappell if she was going to do a Good Luck Babe video as well. And she was like, why? I have a lyric video. And it's the biggest song of the year. Nah.
I don't need to bother.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly though. Like, why is Billie bothered? But
Yeah,
anyway.
it's true.
So Billie has collabed with Aiden
Samiri,
friend of the pod,
friend of the pod,
friend of the girls,
friend of the girls,
who's like having a moment with Billie and Charlie XCX, like doing lots of both of their visuals that culminated in the guest music video, and now who's been listed to the Birds of a Feather video. The video is very like in keeping with Billie's era at the minute, so it's like, I was gonna say glum colours, but I've never used the word glum in my life.
Well, it's like very muted.
Yeah,
she's in an office,
she's being dragged backwards, but like on an invisible string. Like,
yeah,
it's just more of what we've seen from this era from her, and it's kind of like the pop star era in general is kind of like pulling that kind of aesthetic, like muted tones, like we said. So when I watched it, I was like, yeah, of course, Billie Eilish video for this song. And then loads of her fans were on Twitter going crazy. And I seen this before you sent it to me, like fans being like, what the hell? When I pictured this video, I pictured her like skipping through a meadow and there was a rainbow in the sky and there was little bluebirds and they were singing and all the flowers were flowering around her, and then like she had a flower crown on and a lovely, beautiful flowing dress.
it's like, and that's why you're not a fucking director, because that sounds like a Disney film.
Literally though, like why would that be the case? Like, we really appreciate art and music videos in particular that take like you off the beaten track and like interpret the creative in like a way that's like the most famous music videos where they're like not the most straightforward thing that you think of when you listen to the song. Like when the Chappell Roan one where she's like fucking a mermaid. Mm-hmm. But this
only point of reference, Chappell Roan. If you told me this time last year we'd say Chappell Roan so much on the podcast, would have laughed in your face.
I would have told you.
You're right.
We would be doing that, Ione, because I've been there since day one. And then, but this all kind of like grew to a boiling point where obviously fans were going rabid on Twitter. When this happens, like they all just egg each other on until someone does something wrong, and then everyone's like, "Whoa, you didn't need to take it that far, man." Which is the same as being in like school.
I mean, also when we're talking about this, I guess we do have to remember that most of these people are probably in school.
You'd like to think, but you would like to think, but I think if we did a census, some would be our age.
Anyway, so someone DM'd Aiden and then also posted that they did it, like, woo, I did this, saying it fucking sucks. I hope you'll know everyone is disappointed in whatever the fuck this is, sad emoji. Birds of a Feather is her biggest song, and this music video, I always think Envy is movie.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't think that's too far of a stretch.
Was supposed to be her best, but it actually turned out to be her worst. And
wait, can I be Aiden?
And then, yeah, just intro. And then Aiden replied, the little sweetest thing I've ever read in my whole life.
Yeah, so Aiden says, "Hey, I'm so sorry to hear that, and I'm sorry you feel that way. Honestly, Billie and I really love the video, but totally understand that not everyone can or should have the same opinion." New paragraph. "I understand the frustration of seeing a video that you don't necessarily feel connected to for a song you love. At least we can agree that's a really beautiful song, so I hope you can still enjoy the music." And then the heart, sparkly heart emoji, which is like the kindest thing. Like, I take criticism so badly. Like, if someone sent me that, I'd be like, get fucked, your mom's a slug.
No, it is giving us like typing up the response to the Daily Mail
like,
journalist.
Typing it up together, so it was like, that's true, but if it was in a DM or hell to pay, never DM me, hell. Never DM me, because you'll never think about yourself in the same way again. But so then the girl replies,
"You're right. At least we don't know if it's a girl."
Okay, the person replies. Sorry, my default is girl, which I think is feminism.
Okay. "You're right. At least the music video is amazing. You killed it on Guess." No, at least the music is amazing. You killed it on Guess, though.
Guess and Birds of Feathers, the same music video.
Yeah.
They exist in the same cinematic universe.
Anyway, but also I think what's a bit bananas about this in particular is that, like, I'm not saying celebrities deserve hate or whatever. And I think fandom has gone to a dangerous place. But Aiden's not a celebrity. Like, he's a person with a job. As in, and it's a creative job, of course, blah, 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 blah. But I feel like it demonstrates the ways in which fandoms feel that they have say over the output of their, like, chosen fave, basically, to the point where it's like, Aiden doesn't even exist as a person. He exists as an extension of Billie Eilish. And people have even been doing that to him, being like, my twin, because they look similar and, like, all of this kind of stuff. And that's not to say that, like, the way that, like, fans embrace creative teams is, like, a bad thing. And obviously it means that, like, the people behind a lot of these decisions and the art of it are getting more credit, like we talked about on the Brat episode. But it's also like, no, we're all bound boundaryless. We're living in a boundaryless universe.
That's the thing, when you're discussing art and people's creative expression, like, feedback is important, definitely, but it exists in a space where it needs to be regulated. Like, if someone hasn't asked for your feedback...
Well, I'm not being funny. Feedback isn't going into someone's DMs and being like, you fucking ruined
this.
this.
Like, if someone's asked for your feedback on their piece of art, fair game, say what you want. Maybe try and phrase it a bit nicely, but whatever. Finding the person who's made something that you don't like, replying to this story, loads of vitriol, saying that they've ruined it, What, because she's not skipping through the bloody meadow of gay flowers? Be serious for a minute. Like, also look at her. Look at the way she's dressing.
Yeah.
There was no way in hell that was going to be the music video.
And then Chappell Roan, to summarise, Chappell Roan cancelled some dates at a festival. What was the festival for? All Things Go? Yeah, so Chappell cancelled 2 dates at All Things Go festival. What I thought was really eye-opening in one of the articles, which was Queer Women Roll Pop, All Things Go in the Current Cultural Zeitgeist by Maria Sherman for Peak News magazine, was that the festival organisers themselves said weeks before she pulled out, because she pulled out quite last minute, we have dedicated security meetings to Chappell Roan's performance and just what we're going to do in both markets, making sure that we're able to take care of the audience, making sure we're able to take care of the fans. So it's like we see throughout this conversation that the music industry is in crisis on like how to deal with fans, how to deal with, as in the way artists are treated by fans or people that attend live shows, and the way that they are therefore being treated on social media as an extension. And it does really just feel like everything's gotten out of control. Like, people need to reel it in.
There needs to be more safeguarding.
That's not to say fans haven't always been crazy, because I did get punched in the face at a Patrick Wolf gig because, like, I'm the one that took his ukulele. As in, I didn't take it off the stage, he passed it to a fan.
What was that thing everyone was doing a few years ago on Twitter? Indie Amnesty.
Yeah.
That's the biggest Indie Amnesty I've viewed in a while.
At Underage Festival. But it's to say that, like, I feel like fandom is in a really dark place, especially from... Obviously, we didn't experience fandom in any era other than our own, and there has been like really rabid fandom throughout history, like the Beatles and loads of other people, in which it's like camping out, all of this kind of stuff. That stuff has existed throughout all of history, like especially the discussions we're seeing like about live music culture. I think a lot of that is bullshit, like the stuff where it's like fans do like a 20 tweet thread being like, my experience was ruined because a girl elbowed me. It's like, get a life. Like, that's what live music is in a way. Like, I'm not saying obviously like sexual assault and like things like that, and like being punched in the face was probably bad, but camping has always happened. Like, I remember when I saw My Chemical Romance when I was in year 8, so how old were we, 12 or 13?
Yeah,
people camped out for that.
Yeah, I got there at like 6 a.m.
Like, this has been happening forever. I used to go to signings at HMV where they'd literally be like 4, like all the way around the shopping centre, like up and down. Like, this stuff has existed forever, but it's more the entitlement now that is the problem, like the entitlement and the online treatment. And we're seeing that trickle into real life, because we're seeing that people are, like, musicians are having to change their behaviour, like, yeah, cutting back on meet and greets or stopping meet and greets altogether, having security teams dedicated to the handling of one artist. Like, that does overstep a line.
Yeah, it's the anonymity of the comment section has made everyone like just go wild with the things that they'll say, to the point where they'll get in contact with their favourite artists, to the point where this sort of stuff happens, where they'll get in touch with the person's creative director, whereas like back in the day we didn't have that direct access to talking about someone or to someone to the extent that it's able to now. Like, even just having a phone, like I used to be on My Chemical Romance forums for sure, like going buck wild with the things that I was saying. Hope they never come to light when I was 11. But if I'd had a phone with internet access and been able to do that 24/7, like, it builds, doesn't it?
Even the idea of a forum, though, like, a forum in the world of the internet is a third space. Like, it's a space that obviously some teams like ran dedicated forums, but it's a space in which the artist can choose to enter or exit or not be a part of altogether. Whereas, like, obviously celebrities can make that choice, like, not to manage their own social media. But as I said earlier, a lot of these celebrities have grown up on social media, and like, why should they not be able to use it? Like, it's like literally knocking on someone's door, them opening the door, and then going, "You're a cunt."
That's what I mean. Like, it's that behaviour, like the people who have grown up on the internet being like told that behaviour is fine, have then turned that into real life.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like before, when we grew up on the internet, not to be like I am a granny shaking my fist at the cloud, which we always end up feeling like, but like there was that distinction between online and real life. And, like, you'd have, like, this online experience of being a fan, and then you have your real-life experience of being a fan, which is, like, going to the gig, going to the meet and greet, and it would be so finite. And then you'd go online, and it was kind of, like, limitless, but it's all kind of, like, bleeding into each other now, like, what's acceptable fan behaviour, because what's been allowed to be acceptable online has gotten so out of hand.
I don't know what the answer is, because, like, obviously you can't really regulate this either. Like, I'm not saying regulation is always the answer, because that goes back to, like, the security guard thing and when we see, like, abuses of power, but people should be able to self-regulate. Even if you're not an adult, self-regulate. If you're angry at anyone, like, at your favourite, tell a friend. Write it in a diary.
Rumspringer, like, when you're 17, you get to have a phone for a week, and then you get to decide, do I want to be an online person? And then you get to choose from there.
No, because that is what happens already, basically.
No, it's not.
And everyone just chooses to be buck wild.
No. In my utopia, they've not even...
Like, what happens if someone gets a phone and chooses to be a little twat?
They wouldn't. Because it's in my imagination, and I can think what I want.
Okay, fair enough. And with that, we're done. Thank you, Gina.
So much, everyone. Thank you, Ione.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Siam, for the research, and Olivia for the editing, and for all of you for listening. Okay, see you next week. Bye!